Hello, artists and animators. Studio Flimpo is an independent 2D animation studio located in the New York metro area. The three co-founders, Milo Ferguson, Reid Sandlund, and Ren Abueg, met in the animation program at the School of Visual Arts in New York City and joined forces in their third-year group film Sky Vandal. The group has since founded an animation studio and have been working on their next project, Mandlebrot Hall. We invited Milo, Reid, and Ren onto our live stream to discuss their experience starting a studio after graduation, as well as their upcoming crowdfunding campaign. So Milo, Reid, and Ren, welcome to the live stream.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. Hello, everyone in the computer.
This is Milo.
Hi, I'm Milo.
I'm Ren.
And I'm Reid.
We're Studio Flimpo.
We're Studio Flimpo.
And it's great to be here. Thank you, Toon Boom, for having us.
Yeah, this is super cool.
Let's get this started. So can you start by introducing yourselves and describing your roles at Studio Flimpo?
Cool. Should we do it the other way since we did it?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Reid, you can go first.
I'm Reid. My pronouns are he, him. I generally deal a lot more in the artistic side of things. We all kind of take part in all aspects of the studio in different ways. We kind of trade hands on that, but I do a lot of character design, storyboard, and just general animation, art direction.
All right, I'm Ren. I use they, them pronouns. I am the director of Mandlebrot Hall and the writer of it, which is our current project. I am also a storyboard artist, and I also manage production. I'm the production coordinator de facto, as well as handling finances here.
And my name is Milo. I use they, them, and among other artistic roles such as like location and background design, compositing, and also animation as well. Those are the three big ones. I am also the lead social media manager for Studio Flimpo. I've edited pretty much every single video on our social media myself, and we upload a whole lot of them. So a lot of my job is that.
So I have to ask, what is Flimpo?
Okay, so Flimpo is a bit of an in-joke and a bit of a character. I ran a D&D campaign while I was in college that featured these two as player characters, and then we also had a handful of our friends in it. And there was a non-player character that I made that was basically, it was a flump for the people who play D&D. But for the people who don't, it's basically a floating psychic jellyfish named Flimpo. And now for the purposes of Wizards of the Coast...
Yeah, I was going to say, for legal distinction.
Yeah, Flimpo, as it exists now, is not a flump anymore. He is just a lovable jellyfish mascot that I created for the campaign. I made him, and he was a bit of a funny character, not from just his name, but he also it looks like an egg jellyfish and changes color based on how he's feeling. People in the campaign liked him, and we kept his name, saying his name a lot, and we were coming up with a name for our studio together, and we were like, funny words, Flimpo.
And then once we said Studio Flimpo out loud, it was sort of like, come on, that's it.
It started as like a placeholder thing, and then we were like, no, actually, that's great. I think we got it in one.
Yeah, like we think we just nailed it. We have made, I think, we made one video dedicated to like Flimpo's origin.
Yeah, very early on.
Very early on, but people still ask and are still confused after the origin story, which I think adds an elusive aura.
So, in a few words, Flimpo is a psychic magic jellyfish.
Yeah.
That looks like an egg.
Psychic magic jellyfish that looks like an egg. It is not a bearded man. I've heard some people say that.
I want to ask you questions about your studio and about animation, but now I'm distracted by like second edition D&D monsters. Like like the wolf in sheep's clothing, the sort of bunny on a tree stump type monster.
Mhm.
I think that's when they also introduced owlbears. They're just all these like really weird monsters.
Yeah.
Flumps are a really good one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is what he started as.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna put that aside.
All right.
Yeah. Gotta stay on track.
Can't talk about D&D all day.
Yeah.
No,
Because
why not?
I can. What is your origin story? How did you come together to form a studio?
Well, Ren Googled how to form an LLC and then formed an LLC.
No, so we were friends in college, and that's where it started. So we in college knew each other for a long time. We started talking pretty heavily in our second year, but when we started to work together pseudo professionally was in our third year. For our third year at SVA, we had to, everyone in our class needed to work together as a sort of faux studio on a short film for one of our semesters. And the one that we ended up working on, everyone in our class pitched an idea, and Milo's was the one that was the winner. I will say that Milo and I sort of against the rules worked on it together before pitching it.
Yeah, we sort of well, so
They were roommates.
we were roommates. Ren and I were roommates at the time, and we sort of back and forth developed the idea that would eventually become Sky Vandal. We went back and forth on who would even pitch it.
That's
we
right,
eventually decided me, but the great thing is that after mine won, the class had to elect a production coordinator, which I think you were like planning on doing anyways. But then once you had elected yourself for the position, you were like, by the way, I also live with Milo, so communicating with each other is going to be like a whole lot easier than literally anyone else. And everyone kind of agreed, and you were voted on, and you were an incredible production coordinator and remain to be to this day.
So for that film, Sky Vandal, Reid, we appointed as the lead storyboard artist, and he also did some character design for many of the characters in it. So we were all in leadership positions working on that third year film together, and we were able to deliver it on time. Everyone in our class seemed to actually like the leadership, which was a very heartening sign. And
And like the project too, like they just
Yeah.
like the idea of the project and wanted to make it a reality.
And at this point, the animation industry was already getting very turbulent with a lot of layoffs happening. And we were, obviously as third year students entering our thesis year the next year, we were thinking about what we would do for work. And we came to the realization, both from ourselves and also by the urging of our professors, that if we worked together professionally, just like we worked together in school, that might work out. So when we graduated, we formed an LLC, like Milo said, mostly so that we could work on freelance work together as a unit. And then when we launched on social media, well, it just got really big.
The funny thing is we actually formed as a unit legally because there was like a gig lined up that we thought that we could like financially or at least like rely on for like legitimacy of being a studio. And then as that gig was sort of falling through, the studio absolutely exploded on social media. So like things kind of balanced out in a really harmonious way.
I just want to like highlight, like, this is not the usual path that animators take to get into the industry. Graduation is usually not, hey, let's all start a studio. So I just think it's really cool that you were able to go independent. And I just wanted to like ask, what was the thought process behind that? Like, was that something that was scary for you, or was it something that you were really excited to do together?
It was definitely daunting.
It's
not like it was not easy to do, but I think like a big driving force was like none of us really wanted to leave like the New York or like just the East Coast area, and that since like most of the industry is in California, it's like we were like, okay, well, there's not a lot of options out here, and anyways, I feel like there should be more options out here. So we were like, I mean, we can try and do this ourselves.
Yeah. It honestly, for a while, it seemed like a far future idea. Like, oh, maybe far in the future we will have a studio and then there'll be another East Coast studio. But it, needless to say, happened much faster than expected.
The stars kind of aligned for us, and we were able to just jump on it right away. A lot of the thought process behind it was that going independent at the point in time when we graduated was something that not only we were considering, but a lot of seasoned industry veterans were doing as well. Because the fact of the matter
actually
is, on the executive side, a lot of the animation industry was sort of like falling apart.
Or downsizing massively, or being bought out, or just
and
any of the above.
And there were gigs there was still work. There were commercial gigs and like smaller businesses that needed stuff, but all of that necessitated more freelance type independent work, rather than trying to specifically like break in at a studio, because with all the layoffs happening at major studios, it was hard enough for veterans to find work, let alone people who were, just starting out. And from that, we decided to like go on a different path that would still let us sort of go forward into the industry, but not have that roadblock in front of us.
Let's talk a little bit about Sky Vandal. How did the project come about, and how do you describe the production process on your very first film together?
So the idea came about because I saw a post about how I think in the 90s, there was a really big power outage in Los Angeles, and it was so, it just completely, the whole city went dark. And what was notable about that power outage is that the city was so dark that 911 was getting so many emergency calls about something strange appearing in the sky. Which that thing was just the Milky Way. It was just visible in Los Angeles. And I think it was you who said like, that would be a really cool film idea. Like this was something that we discovered while we had to think of an idea to pitch. We already talked about how it, it was selected as the winning one, and then Ren was elected as the production coordinator. But the process itself had its unique challenges, because obviously we're working, the size of the class was like 20 people. It's a student body. As I think our professor Frank said, you can't fire anyone. But I was honestly really surprised by the group effort on our team. But it was just a real reminder that animation is very much a team sport. There are so many moving parts. There were because this was new to all of us. I mean, pretty much all of us who had never worked on a group project. Like, there were people that, had to be like, oh no, I have to, like, I'm given a design, I have to work from that design. And if I want to change things about it, I can't just do it on my own accord. I have to go back with the other people, and like a lot of learning curves there. But it was the first moment where I, as a creator, had something like an idea that I had and developed with another person, but then let it sort of go off as the whole team, regardless of their position, really made it into a project that was distinct from the original idea, and the sort of value in embracing that.
All of the design decisions and everything were made as like a group, regardless of like, it was just like a small group of people. It was like maybe like team of 5 people on each, like in each specific role.
Department,
but like everyone would vote on like the options that team created, and like that would be the final version of it. So it was like very much like everyone was involved. That film came together because of everyone that worked on it. It was really an incredible experience. Very stressful, especially making a short film in that time frame while also attending college and doing other college classes is a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I know for myself, I was basically working as a production coordinator as my full-time job just for the school, for the school group, as well as doing all of my other classes.
We were getting paid negative money because we were, paying tuition.
But, that being said, it was a very great experience because the process of going through it all was very much just like a sort of downsized version of a pipeline that you might go through in the industry proper. I, as the production coordinator with Milo, selected the teams that people would go into for each department, whether it's storyboards or character or background design. I made a schedule for everybody and put down all the landmarks that we needed to hit, the deadlines, organized the groups. It was my first foray at art school. I had been learning a lot of technical skills in terms of artwork. That was my first time sort of really diving into the production side, which is, as a lot of people in the industry will tell you, just as important and vital for it to happen at all.
Yeah.
And
it was also an aspect that is, kind of lacking on the independent side, unfortunately.
That's true. Because there's a lot of really fantastic artists out there, but it's important to remember that when you're a studio, that there is a lot of moving pieces that aren't only the artwork, and being able to have that experience on Sky Vandal helped prepare us to handle those parts that are very much part of our sort of practical everyday challenges now, that go beyond just drawing.
Yeah, I think one of the really cool things when I talk to people about thesis films, number one, like thesis films tend to be people's first, and in many cases, their only original animated short. And the second thing that always strikes me is like you can talk to a small handful of people who know about everything on the production, from the writing to the storyboards to the animation process, and things like ink and paint compositing. Do you feel like that process really prepared you to start a studio?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I don't think we could have done it without having that experience.
Yeah, I mean, it was our third year film and then going into thesis. And I think having both of those really, really helped, because the third year film was the first time managing other people and sort of doing it in a traditional pipeline setup where you need to have rules that don't only apply to yourself so that the operation can work smoothly.
Yeah.
And then for thesis, that was over the course of a full year and change. And that was definitely the longest independent film project that any of us worked on, our individual thesis films.
There's also a sort of like rude awakening you get when you first work on a group project, where you realize that some habit you've had making your own independent films is like completely outrageous. And it's for the best that you learn that sort of things. But like there were people who like, you opened their Toon Boom file and it like they were using like you just opened it and it was just full of vector points. Like the computer was working overtime. Like it was gonna take off and like about to melt. And they're like, oh no, this is how I've always done it. Like Toon Boom is actually fast. And it's like, yes, you actually have to. Or the people making backgrounds at like way too small to scale up. Or I found out that the way I had done After Effects compositing was like completely wrong, which is crazy because like at that time I considered myself a compositing person. So it's a very good thing to have that sort of work discipline that is not only good for yourself, but will not make the person that you hand your work off to in a professional setting want to tear their hair out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a pro tip for anyone watching this: do not leave layers titled untitled.
Oh my god. That was a really
layer 1, layer 2.
That was a really big problem. We also, because obviously people from SVA, our art school, like are from all over the place. So not only did I, as a compositor who had to deal with layer names all the time, I was like, please, everyone, I swear to God, please name your layers. And I got unnamed layer one, like you know, had a layer 2, layer 5, but like in 4 different languages, because everyone's Photoshop was like set to whatever their home language was, which was a very unique challenge, I will say. But you know, again, learning moment.
So, I mean, organization is, of course, very important, saves you a lot of time later on. But what would you say your biggest challenge was during the production of Sky Vandal?
Time crunch, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, there was obviously difficulty with, you know, coming to a consensus on a design or an animation critique, but I think we were very lucky to have a team that worked very well together. And also, that was, of course, not without the effort of you, Ren.
I think it largely came down to Ren was very good at managing people and making sure that they were getting things in on like deadlines.
Yeah. Thank you.
It was very much largely dependent on that, but still would have been a whole lot easier if we had just a bit more time to work on that project.
Yeah, I mean, I did my best in organizing the deadlines, but I only had a certain amount of time to work in.
Yeah.
We had 1 semester to do this. And the fact is that making a film of any length in that short amount of time is very difficult. And there were times we had to set like midweek deadlines that people had to complete in order to pass off work to another department that would need to be due in the same week. You know, like we had class every week and someone in the layouts team might need to finish something to give to the storyboard team all within 1 week.
Yeah.
And those really tight deadlines were probably the biggest issue. It caused the most stress on the team. And because of that, like in terms of managing the team, the stress associated with that, while also not telling people like, hey, don't ignore your health, do this no matter what. Like we didn't want to do that.
No.
So it was a very hard balance to find in a college setting of getting everyone to do their work on time, but not like working them to death. It was tough, but we managed to do it. And everyone in class really tried very hard and did great.
Yeah. We turned it in on time.
We did. Yeah.
So, and not everyone does that. So, you know, that's an accomplishment.
I mean, the truth is, like on any production that you're on, there is, at the end of the day, going to be some limit to the amount of time or budget that you can spend towards it.
Yeah.
And being able to make decisions that can get your project finished is really important. It's a good skill to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think next time I work on a big project, though, I'm going to make it like, well, actually, I was going to say, next time we do a big project, I want to make it so that it's not going from one place to another. So you have to design all the locations in between. But that's very close to what Mandlebrot Hall is. So
yeah, I wrote the script for the pilot episode to only happen in a couple locations. The process of figuring out the production timeline for this project we're working on now, and also the way that I wrote the script, we learned a lot from Sky Vandal, so we could learn, hey, how do we do this more efficiently and more effectively, and so that we don't want to draw a lot of ribbons on a bat.
Yeah, how can we make this take place in as little rooms as few rooms as possible?
We got a question in the chat that I think might be interesting. What made you choose to focus on 2D hand-drawn animation instead of cutout or 3D?
It's mainly just because, well, one, we like it. It's awesome. It is a timeless style. It looks incredible, but it's also just what we were formally trained in at school. Because, well, I mean, there are less animation jobs specifically in the States because animation specifically is more done like outsourcing now, like in Canada. So we weren't taught as much about like rigging, and we love 3D and cutouts and stuff like that, but it's just, we're working with what we know and we want to promote that part of the medium again. It's, yeah.
2D animation has always like appealed to me because like a drawing is always going to be a drawing, while like 3D animation, while there's like so many 3D animated films that look incredible, it like at least in its current state, has a tendency to look aged very, like, or look dated very quickly. But like a drawing is always going to be a drawing because like it's just like what you would see like in an illustration, but it's moving. So.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a lot of my draw to 2D animation is just a love of drawing. And I mean, before I even learned how to do animation, I drew and painted a lot. And that quality, like Reid said, of something being drawn has a visual appeal to me that I really, really like. And that's why I chose to pursue it, because there were, other schools, other programs that I could have gone into that focused more on computer animation or even stop motion. But the thing that I liked doing most and the thing that I liked seeing the most was hand-drawn traditional animation. And yeah, just the love of that, I think, really propelled me towards it.
That's also not to say that Mandlebrot Hall may or may not have some sort of, multimedia expansion of 2D animation.
It's just what we do here.
Yeah, it's just what we do here. And, it'll all depend on what sort of budget we have for the project itself, so we can, do more sorts of stuff with the project.
Yeah, no, I love mixed media, and I love all the other the other mediums of animation. It's just the one that I know how to do and the one I like to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it's really important if you're working in the arts to focus on things that you're interested in, because you don't want to compete with people who really love working with cutout animation or 3D animation if that's not what you're interested in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Mandlebrot Hall. What can you tell our viewers about the project?
Sure. I will start off with the pitch for it, just the sort of elevator pitch. So Mandlebrot Hall is about a first-year art student's semester curdling into cosmic horror as people, places, and even concepts begin to vanish from reality. And it's a adult comedy horror series that we are developing the pilot for right now. We are hoping to raise money for it this summer so that we can get a good team working on it, pay them well, and hopefully get it out by the end of next year. It's our big project right now. It's the one we're pouring all our love into. And so far, the reception to it on social media for what we've shown people, for our voice acting call, has all been really incredible. So we're really hopeful and really excited about it.
Yeah, it's been incredible.
Yeah, I think one thing that always gets people excited, there's a lot of appetite towards animated horror. People like hearing it when it's interesting because a few years ago I would say that I haven't heard about too many projects that are animated horror, but you hear more and more, and it doesn't seem like that appetite for animated horror has gone away. It seems like there is a group of people who just feel that we just need more.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I was one of those people. And that's part of why I wanted this project to happen, is because I feel with the genre of horror in general, there's a lot of really experimental and out there things you can do with it. And with the medium of animation, where it's quite literally limitless, and applying that to like a cosmic, psychological, and existential horror, with the characters and then the visual nature of it, which we want to be very hands-on, very tactile. All of that together was something that excited me a lot, and I found that I didn't see that. So I was like, let's make that. Yeah. Let's make the thing that I want to see.
Let's make it real.
Yeah.
And the incredible thing, and this sort of ties back into what was the question we were talking about before? That sort of related to Mandlebrot Hall, about like how we were going to approach the medium, like having it have a tactile sense of like people made this, like this is a hand made thing. We literally the Toon Boom vector line we're using for the animation is one that we made ourselves using an actual charcoal pencil on paper. We have actual like physical paintings we have around the studio, and we're going to make more to incorporate in the backgrounds.
Yeah,
it's something that we're not afraid to show, like, you know, people made this. It's also you know, with something, this is actually something I was talking about with my dad a while ago, and he kind of didn't quite understand it until he saw one of my my most recent animated project, my thesis film, where he's like, why don't you ever do something in live action? And I was like, it's too limiting. I can't do it. Like, if we want to have something absolutely insane happen, we just draw it. And there it is. It's real. It's part of the medium. It's
interesting because I was reading an article in Keyframe Animation, or Keyframe magazine, the publication by the Animation Guild, and they posted interviews about like how animation can be used. Basically, how like the mediums, like one of its superpowers is that can take things that a character is experiencing and make it visual. You know, like internally, like their emotional state, what they're thinking about, and go into that in detail.
Yeah,
absolutely. To a point where, like, if you recreated it frame for frame in live action, it would look ridiculous because there's like a whole different level of suspension of disbelief that you're working with.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about visual art a lot of the time, where you go to a museum and you look at a painting that really affects you, and the painting, if it was just a photograph of the same thing, wouldn't be the same. There's a lot of visual development and just aspects of art that can reach people, that people can feel, that is sort of unique to the medium.
Drawn art, it's always just like, I think of it as just like the world filtered through your perspective, and then getting to show that to other people. It adds a lot to the like what is being shown, because it's like your touch is adding a lot instead of just like showing like the like literal thing of what it is.
How would you describe the inspiration behind Mandlebrot Hall, both visually and narratively? What are you drawn to?
We have a lot of inspirations in our deck. Actually, our pitch deck, we have some, but some of the other media I'll start with that inspired it include Junji Ito's works, Silent Hill, the games, House 1977. There's so many that I can't remember off the top of my head.
There's a lot. I personally like to throw in some inspiration from Madoka Magica, which is just like one of the most visually insane anime I've ever seen. There's the Adult Swim short Too Many Cooks.
That's right.
There was, what was another one?
The SCP Foundation.
The SCP Foundation. Oh man, yeah, I never even realized how much of an inspiration that was until I really you know, because there's just so many elements of it that really bring it in.
There's the recent film that recent addition to our list is Sans Objects, I think.
Well, that was a National Film Board of Canada one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a short film that was very textural, very raw feeling. Speaking of, there's another very textural and raw film called Son of the White Mare.
Oh my god, that's so. If you love animation in any way and you have not watched Son of the White Mare, watch it right as soon as you can. It's so weird and so cool, and so Hungarian.
Visually, we want it to look very handcrafted. Like, it needs to look drawn, and there's going to be a big element of organicness to all of it, where the horror that's happening isn't something synthetic or digital. It's very real, and you can feel it. And the way that we sort of will translate that into our work is by incorporating paintings or having stop motion scenes that are incorporated with the hand-drawn animation, or by doing pencil tests on paper, not just on the computer. And all of those visual elements I want to be very present in this. Another inspiration I just remembered by looking up at a poster is Masaki Yuasa.
Yeah, we've got a Yuasa poster right above the TV.
For character animation and that sort of vibe.
Yeah, Mind Game is one of my faves.
Yeah, and then for writing wise, you know, I mentioned Junji Ito, that sort of combination of cosmic and psychological horror, where the horror is just as much the physical things that are happening, but also the idea of being someone who is aware of things that are happening and nobody else around you is. Nobody else believes you. You are isolated. You are alone, even though you're surrounded by other people. That sort of psychological element in the writing is also really important to me.
Yeah.
Kind of like how Cassandra can see that there is doom coming for you and no one else believes you. Yes,
precisely.
Yeah.
We have a question in the chat that I think is really interesting. So you mentioned that you're working on this video, this short, or a pilot, I should say, and you're also working on commercial work. How do you balance personal projects with your commercial work?
So a lot of it is back to scheduling things out. So the way I do it, and I say I because I'm usually the one who plans the schedules for people here, is I will, like in Google Calendar, straight up, I will just apportion work for the weeks that I feel, based on how much we've output in the past, and now I'm familiar with everyone's speed at which they work. I will make it so that like you have this many weeks to complete the rough animation for our trailer animation. But I make sure that that amount of time isn't the same amount of time as if we were working on it alone. So when we have commercial work that we're working jointly with it, I will adjust the schedule so that it's like, okay, in our day, we'll spend so many hours working on this and so many hours working on Mandlebrot Hall, so that we can have both of them happening at the same time, but with a reasonable expectation for when it should be done.
Yeah, it also helps to, like, you know, really not be afraid to integrate our personal work into our client work, or like the time-wise, not like, you know, creativity-wise, obviously, if the client has different demands. But I will say it has been a little easier to balance client work with personal work right now, because we don't have ongoing client gigs at this moment.
Yeah, at the current moment in time, we are working pretty much solely on Mandlebrot Hall.
Yeah.
With the support of our, you know, our Patreon and
our lovely Flimpoids.
Yeah, and our audience is helping us with some of the funds, and that's sort of how we stay afloat in the breaks between gigs.
Yeah.
So one thing I noticed in your announcement video for Mandlebrot Hall is you mentioned that a goal of the upcoming crowdfunding campaign would be to pay artists a fair wage. Do you want to talk about why that was an important value for your studio?
Yes, 100%. So yeah. In the indie animation scene, and because of sort of the nature of these productions not having as much funding as something from like a bigger studio, there have been a lot of issues that people have had with fair compensation or crunch, or a combination of both of those. And with a company like us who supports, you know, unions, who is very in support of workers' rights, we felt that it would be hypocritical to go down the path of, oh, you know, just because we're indie, we can get away with like skimping on treating people fairly and paying people fairly. While we just don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
It's very important for us to, when we have the funds, treat people and pay people in the same manner that we would want, ideally, out of work that we would apply for. That people are compensated for the work they're doing, because even though animation and art in general is so often like passion led, where people will do the work no matter what, no matter how they're paid.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that passion pays off.
Yeah. And especially now that there's sort of like the sort of go indie push is sort of motivated by the turbulent state of the industry right now in the mainstream animation industry. But like going indie is not exactly a profitable venture for a lot of people, and a lot of the times it is based on just passion. I mean, we've seen so many past indie projects basically well, one, they get under some pretty heavy fire because they're like, hey, why do you have like these hordes of like, you know, dozens, sometimes hundreds of people working for you like for free, or like even worse, the promise of future payment, which will totally happen at some point. And a lot of them, you know, God forbid, are like, you know, minors or something. And we wanted to set an example for what an indie studio could be. So like, say, you know, obviously we hope that for the crowdfund, we get as much funds as we possibly can to complete the episode, but animation is expensive, and we want to pay people well. So if it means having a smaller team in return for that team for being paid well, that's the route we're going to go.
Yeah, and we're only going to like hire as many people as we can, we can pay.
Yeah,
pay a fair wage.
Yeah, it would be pretty.
Yeah,
otherwise,
I think one of the difficult things about the animation industry is that it is one of those industries where people come into the industry with the promise of, hey, this is going to be your dream job. You get to do what you always wanted to do. And I think that is why sometimes people accept lower wages or spec work. And I think that the truth is that animation work is work, and people should be paid fairly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
It's a shame. Well, that standard has been set so hard that we get emails all the time, even though we say like, hey, we're not hiring right now because we can't pay anyone right now, still being like, oh, I'll work for free, I'll do this, whatever, I'll do this and
I
that.
think we even got an email once from someone who asked us if they could pay us to work.
Yeah, we have gotten more than one email saying that,
and that's not. No, don't. First of all,
don't
people want
to
do that.
That's how you get exploited, and that's not what we want to do. Ever.
No, absolutely not. If we want there to be a future in the animation industry, not whether it's indie or the big leagues, we want to make sure that there is an expectation set where people can join a studio and get paid well for the work that they're doing. The bar is on the floor.
Yeah,
it is literally
people should be paid to do their job.
People should be paid to do their job.
Yeah.
Like that is the bar we're setting.
Yeah.
It's not a very high bar, but we want people to join us. Like, hey, if you can only hire one or two people or no one, that's fine. Pay yourself, or that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's just like too much of a precedent in like the animation industry at large, not even just in India, of like, oh, just pay, or like you may not be getting paid like enough to like pay rent, or like just barely enough to pay rent, but hey, it's a cool project and you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
And like that's not a sustainable state of being, and it's not a sustainable thing for the industry. It's like and like the effects of it are showing a lot in the state of the industry right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, we are in the industry. We have friends in the industry, and see just the experience firsthand of seeing our peers either be put under like insane crunch or not get compensated, basically robbed for their work. That is just not something that should be happening at all. And obviously there's only so much we can do at the industry at large, but we have our studio that we can make a difference in here, and that's what we're going to do. Yeah,
and while we may not be the biggest studio, we certainly have a large following, and that comes with a big responsibility. responsibility of setting the right example and being loud about it.
Yeah.
Animation can be also a somewhat self-effacing medium where audiences will see the finished product, but not all of the work that goes into it. One thing I noticed about your studio is you've been very present on camera and on social media. So I wanted to ask, like, what drew you to be very public about your artistic process?
So you're absolutely right about it being a self-effacing medium. There are lots of other indie creators, indie studios where like we don't even know what they look like, and we've talked to them and stuff. So it is certainly rare for animators to get on camera and also be like, you know, showy and have a camera presence. But it was a demand that was not being met in the indie space. Every time, like, there's such a burning curiosity from people, not just in animation in general, like animation fans, but especially in the independent space, who want to know how it works, like what's going on, what app are you using? That's why we took the Toon Boom sponsorship, because it's like our most commonly asked question. Or like, what are we using? How does it work? And a lot of indie studios are fully remote, so they don't have this sort of physical space like this. And we wanted to take advantage of the physical space we had and show people how it really worked. And that way we could build an audience without having to release the project first. But it was more of something that we just noted anytime, like, I don't know, like anytime there was a Spindle Horse or like Has Been Hotel like update, like anytime they posted anything on Twitter, anything at all, whether it was like a news thing or just a regular post. It's
Job
like
post.
a job post. It's usually job post, but it happens with the other ones where it just flooded the replies of people being like, you know, can I be a voice actor? I'm 13 and I have a microphone. Or like, I can be an animator or a writer. I don't know how it works, but I want to be involved somehow.
Yeah.
And we were like, want to be involved somehow?
Yeah, that burning curiosity, that desire to be involved. And also just wanting to make art accessible. Even though our videos are not a substitute for an education,
No,
by any means,
No.
not even a little bit. It is important for us to be able to share some of the information we have, or share some of the process that we have with people, so that they can, you know, see how it's made. There's a lot of desire for just the understanding of like, how does this thing that I love so much happen? And we wanted to make that accessible to everyone.
Yeah, it's super fun, and I really liked how people seem to be just as interested in it as we are.
Yeah.
Also, I'm gonna check if the door to the basement is closed, because our cat is meowing a lot, and that's what she does when she's like locked out.
I think it's open.
I'm gonna check.
You probably should check.
It is closed.
I think she shut it.
Oh, she shut
She
it on.
actually does that sometimes.
Come on down, baby. Come on down. Come on.
One thing that I really wanted to ask is, how long have you been developing Mandlebrot Hall so far, and what kind of work went into the development process up to that point?
Sure. So I came up with Mandlebrot Hall actually in my 4th year of college. So that was January of 2023 is when I came up with the project, because for the class, which was a developing an animated series class, that was Maisie, we each had to bring forward and pitch a project and sort of like go through stages of developing a pitch Bible for it. And I wanted to do something new for that class, not just like a pre-existing idea. And I, went through the stages of like making a log line and pitching it, and showing all of the sort of pre-development work to my class. And people then already really, really were drawn to it, which I was very flattered by. But we basically, when we formed our studio together, it wasn't originally with the intent of like, oh, we'll make this pilot episode right away. It was yet again another thing where we were like, okay, maybe, when we have more of a presence down the line, we can get started on working on this.
Maybe in a year or so.
Yeah, we can get started on this project that we're all really passionate about.
Yeah, we just kind of had to hit the ground running pretty quickly once we realized, oh shoot, it looks like we actually might be able to pull this off.
Yeah, but in terms of the work that we've already put into it, so last year, a lot of it was just developing the bones of it, like the outline, the idea for the story, the world, the characters, and obviously the script. These past few months, we've really gotten into making the art for it. We have our promotional art that we've released so far, the character designs, which Reid refined and made turnarounds for. We made the thumbnail storyboards for the entire pilot episode based on the script.
We got locations, we got merch designs.
Locations, merch designs. We have an animatic for our trailer, which we are currently animating. So all of the production on the formal art side of things has really kicked up these past few months. And it's really exciting because what we hope to do is launch our crowdfund with our trailer. And then once we get the funds for that, we'll be able to just hit the ground running and develop the episode proper.
Yeah. We can't say anything about the trailer yet, obviously, but it's so cool. I can't wait. I can't wait for everyone to see it. It's we have a composer on it who I was really thrilled to get on board, who absolutely knocked it out of the park with the score for just the trailer, and we picked the coolest shots. Now we get to flesh out those shots, and it's just, I'm really excited for everyone to see it.
Yeah.
If there was a trio of recent grads who was watching this live stream, and they were interested in starting a studio, what advice would you give them?
Ooh, should we do down the line?
Yeah,
what advice?
Sure.
Don't neglect the business side of things. You need to have at least a very rudimentary understanding of business management and everything, because the art part, it's very easy to just make art. You need to also have a very close eye on all of the money management and everything, because you're going to have, if you are an LLC, you're going to have to pay taxes. You have to have everything down on paper, and you cannot be lazy on that.
Yeah, because the IRS doesn't accept people who are lazy on that.
Yeah, another piece of advice I would give, and again, it's not art related, because I think a lot of what advice I would give to a trio of art graduates would be the things that they might have not told you in school. So I would say that a very important thing is managing your own schedule. If you're going to be self-employed in any regard, whether it's a studio that you found with your friends or whether you're just freelancing, you need to treat it like a job. Try your best to have an established space to work that's separate from your home environment. One of the worst things in college was having to sit down, roll out of bed and go to my desk right next to my bed and work on thesis for 10 hours. That was not good.
So like an animal in an enclosure.
If at all possible, try and separate your home and workspace. Try and give yourself a schedule. Treat it like you have a boss. You're your own boss. And you clock in from this hour to this hour in the day. You give yourself breaks, and you make sure that you're on task. You set your own deadlines. Things will not just get done when they get done. You need to treat it like a job, because it is.
Let's see. Don't go into making a studio expecting to make money. Animation is not a hilariously profitable business venture. As a matter of fact, you will probably lose money, and you will probably lose money for a while. That's fine. That's normal. Most businesses are not profitable. And when I say not profitable, I mean literally not in the negatives of money coming in and out. A lot of the time, it takes, a year for that to happen. So you don't have to, drop everything and go into this full force, because even if, the stars align and everything works out, you're still not going to be able to cover everything. God knows we're not exactly Scrooge McDuck right now, swimming in money. It's it's still a very it's a small operation. So if you need to if you can only work on it a little bit of the time while you have a part-time job, or you need some some help from friends or support from family, like that's okay. There is not one set of rules and set of steps you need to do to have a presence in the independent space. It's all about your other co-founders, if you've got them. It's all about what environment you're in. And as far as social media, it's all luck. Post consistently, but everything else is entirely decided by an omnipotent machine that you could never even begin to fully understand. And it's trying to get you addicted to it. So just post consistently. Doesn't have to be every day, just, at a regular time so people know when to expect your videos, and eventually stuff will work out, even if it takes a while.
One more thing on the more artistic side of things. Don't dedicate yourself to multiple projects at the very beginning. Just choose one.
Yeah.
You don't want to spread yourself too thin. Just do one. Don't get too overly ambitious. One project is enough to start with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, do your hand exercises.
Yes.
Yeah, your wrist exercises. You don't want this is your livelihood.
You can get manicures and write them off as a business expense. That actually is true. You can do that. Yeah, if you within reason, but the don't take that as legal
This is
tax
not
advice.
legal
This is not legal advice.
Not
This is just
accurate.
what I've been told by a few animation professionals. But the overarching message is take care of your hands,
And
please.
your eyes.
and your eyes, and your back. Yeah,
Arm, spine, all of it.
Take
It's
care of your
important.
body.
yeah. The whole thing, honestly, you only get one.
Yeah.
Unless it's something I don't know.
You
But
get one.
yeah, maybe you get one, loser. Yeah, and good luck, because it's
Yes.
super hard.
Yes.
So Godspeed.
So we're almost running out of time. Where can our viewers go to see more of your work?
Well, if you want to support Mandlebrot Hall and be notified when the crowdfund goes live, because you will want to be notified as soon as it goes live, because there will be very exclusive, very special perks and rewards for people who are early backers. Go to flimpo.co/mbh, and that's where you'll find where to sign up for the the Mandlebrot Hall newsletter. And since you're already on flimpo.co, our website, you will have access to our reel and all of our social medias. They're all right there, as well as our contact info if you need that too.
Yeah, and in case you just want to check on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, we are at Studio Flimpo across the board.
Across the board, baby. No dots or underscores in this house anymore.
Yep.
And
If you want to support us, you can also find us on Patreon.
Yes.
Also Studio Flimpo.
patreon.com/studio.
Any support is greatly appreciated.
Every time we get a patron, even if it's like a $1 patron, I see it on my phone and I read it out to everyone, and they're like, "Whoa!" So, like, if you want that to happen with your name, patreon.com/studio Flimpo. I will read it out to them, and they'll go, "Whoa!" And also, we'll be very grateful for your support, obviously.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Studio Flimpo founders, Milo, Reid, and Ren, for taking time to talk about your experiences in animation, the founding of your indie studio, as well as your upcoming project. And for viewers who enjoyed this discussion, if you'd like to try your hand at animating in Harmony Premium, you can visit our website, toonboom.com, for a 21-day free trial. Next week, we'll be hosting our next studio tour interview with our friends at Floyd County Productions. They're the animation studio behind productions like Hit Monkey, America the Motion Picture, and Archer. I think that they're one of the most ambitious production houses for 2D rigged animation, and you won't want to miss it. So thank you for taking time to join us, and be sure to tune in next time.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.